Good afternoon. Myself Santosh Purkar. So again from the Nasik, same topic, multimedia system, multimedia technology. Before proceed for a speech processing, image processing, audio processing, all that details, we are going to see some basics, as we already completed some basic related with the image. Same way we complete some basic in today's session related with the speech or sound. So audio, the complete title is audio fundamentals. So under audio fundamentals, sound, the vibration of matters, vibration of matters, means normally you hear some sound, that hissing sound, noisy sound, or then some clear, some tone, some musical instrument, all those details. So vibration of matters in air. This vibration can be possible with a different aspects, with a different way. Like for example, this vibration can be this way, so there is a vibration. This vibration can be longitudinal, it can be longitudinal, or it can be that radiational. So this vibration, based on this vibration, as this vibration is moving from one point towards another point, so there can be some tones, those are generated. Some high tones, some low tones that seem to be generated. Some node and anti-node seems to be generated. These nodes and anti-nodes create some variation over the air, over that system, over some mechanism, over that particular matter. So that generate the sound, that create the sound. So that is sound. So vibration of matter. But over here, for our interest, we are talking for some musical instrument, some realistic sound related story or therapy. It can be violin string, a hand clapping over there. So that can be the sound. So this violin string, while you are just moving this way, so there is some vibration, those are generated, and based on that vibration there are some ends, those are connected with some entity, and that creates the sound. So this violin string, hand clapping can be activity, or a vocal track, as I am talking right now, vocal track with some up and down, with some air, that fluctuation. So all this is possible. How it is possible? So while we are performing certain kind of activity, there is a certain pressure, those are generated over the air pressure, some high pressure or some low pressure, that change nature, high and low pressures. That's why that tone seems to be somewhat different. That can be separated, that can be identified one. So that avalanche effect of that all vibration, like indirectly that molecule can be triggering with each other, and that will be moving propagated in a forward direction, or propagated over the air or over the that environment. So that generated some voice or some noise or some sound. So this sound, this is a related story with the sound. Okay, indirectly that molecule effect, that vibration of matter through that molecule effect over the air generate the sound. So it is nothing but creating a pressure, that high pressure and low pressure, that node anti-node, that ups and downs, those seem to be generated, and that propagated over the air, through the air, and that as through the air, what is happened normally, what is happened if this room is somewhat calm and cool, there is no voice. So what is happened over here? In this case, the happening is that there is no sound. But as I am talking right now, so there are some pressure, some nodes and anti-nodes, those are created over that available air. So some pressure seems to be changed, some pressure over the air seems to be changed. So that propagated through the air, and while it will be moving over the spectrum, over the environment, and if it is returned to the human ear, so it is nothing but kind of sensor. Human ear is nothing but the kind of sensor, the diaphragm. While it will be getting that information, so it will be creating some noise or some voice over here, and that particular fellow going to identify there is something that will be delivered by that other fellow. So those are nothing but the waves, whatever those are traveling, that kind of combination, that high low combination, that will be reaching to my ear, nothing but the waves. Means you can term this as a like electromagnetic waves, some kind of waves those are generated. But this frequency in this case seems to be somewhat different than the normal that communication, electrical communication or electronic communications frequency. So properties of these waves or properties of this sound. Properties of these waves or property of this sound is like these waves or this sound, whatever the story, this vibration support reflection, refraction, diffraction. If you are knowing the story of ray properties or ray model, Huygens model, Botkrop model, that model. Reflection means while I am talking, suppose instead of talking right now in the air, if I am talking through that some pipe, so whatever that voice you are hearing, that noise that will be from that particular pipe, it is nothing but through the property of reflection, because that flux density, that density seems to be somewhat different from the outside and that in the middle of that pipe. So the refractive index is somewhat different, so that will be just changing that sound level here through that pipe structure, and that will be reached to the destination. Refraction, as I am talking through some paper, some plastic paper, some cloth, and I am talking through that. So there is some of the waves those might be returned, some of the waves those might get escaped. So refractive index, if it in this case from that reflection point of view, it will be somewhat very different, or it is a vice versa. So that whatever the waves that will be getting out from that available boundary, that is nothing but the refraction. Diffraction, as I am right now talking, and if there is any taper part that will be available, and through that taper part, if the sound wave that will be striking, so there are multiple nodes, multiple elements, that wave fronts, those seem to be generated, and that is called diffraction properties. The diffraction, refraction, reflection, these have very huge importance in case of electronic communication, because through reflection you are supporting for fiber optic communication, through refraction you can support for that sky wave propagation, through that diffraction you can communicate for a light, you can support for a light communication. But in our multimedia system, these have some different aspects for consideration. I will explain later on. But apart from these properties for the sound, we have another properties: pitch, frequency, loudness, intensity, amplitude, envelope, that changing nature, envelope, that high to low, that transition, envelope. Pitch or frequency, that high to low cycle or high to low transition, high to low change nodes to antinode or antinode to node, that change normally referred as pitch, and normally it is per second, cycles per second. So it is termed as pitch. This pitch seems to be very important. As per as dogs, cat, bats and human being, this pitch value seems to be very different. So in this case, what is happening over here? Over here, that notes are created as per the speech, as per the vibration over the air, that notes are generated, and these notes are traveling with a certain speed, and this certain speed seems to be normally termed as this pitch. Then this pitch, loudness is nothing but the signal strength, intensity, the magnitude, the entity which changes with respect to time. This entity may have normally measured in terms of voltage, in terms of amplitude, in terms of watt, in terms of whatever that flux density. Envelope, the changing nature, that this envelope have very importance, that it is somewhat very important in case of selecting instrument, musical instrument, guitar, piano, that will normally selected based on this envelope characteristics. We are going to see that also. So pitch, there are 4 categories based on this pitch or frequency, 4 category: infra frequency, audible frequency, ultra frequency, hyper frequency. Infra frequency 0 to 20 Hertz, audible frequency 20 to 20 kilohertz, that ultra frequency 20 kilohertz to 1 gigahertz, hyper frequency 1 gigahertz to up to 10 gigahertz, recently it is up to 100 gigahertz. that hyper frequency band. So these are nothing but the band, and based on these band you can select appropriate instrument for your music or for your communication, for your sound communication or for your speech communication. Again, same way, apart from this category, apart from this band category, we have some different category based on a different living organism. They have different ability for listening, for hearing the sound. That, like as earlier I said, dogs, cats, bats, dolphins and human being. This is nothing but the living organism. They have different capability, different frequency band hearing capability. 50 kilohertz, 60 kilohertz, that 20 kilohertz, 160 kilohertz dolphins. So dolphin can hear your sound. This sound have very high importance in environment. For example, I can give you one sample example. If you are having any greenery, that garden, and if in that garden if you are making the arrangement of musical instrument, and that musical instrument continuously playing over that garden, whatever that trees or that plants those are deployed, they will be growing with a faster rate. So it means that in case of plant activity also, this frequency or this speech or the sound therapy work appropriately. Again, human being, it is nothing but living organism. The capacity for hearing 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz for human being. Normally this entire, but those people are somewhat fortunate who listen the sound beyond 15 kilohertz after their middle age. Because this particular band, whatever this explain over here, this is not cut to cut, appropriate, exact. There can be variation based on the age, based on the capability, based on the mental condition. So this all for all those living organisms, for human being also. Exact band is somewhat different based on age, based on mental condition, based on strength of that particular fellow. Ear response is normally degraded with the aging effect. With the aging effect, same for a dog, same for cat, same for bat. For example, you may found some of the dogs, though you are pressing your horn, still they are not moving here and there. Some of the dogs, those are responding very quickly for that. So that is the story. Same for human being. The people after 40, 45, their hearing capability or their hearing aid seems to be somewhat very weak, going to be weak. It is not always, but some of the conditions. So ear response is deteriorated based on aging effect, based on malfunction, based on some failure, based on some damage. So with the age, this after middle age, that listening sound more than 15 kilohertz clearly seems to be somewhat fortunate. As this sound propagate normally 344 meter per second, if you are checking for the humid air room, 20 degrees centigrade. In humid air condition, that sound can propagate 344 meter per second. If you are considering same for a 20 to 20 kilohertz section, it is about 17 meter wavelength to 1.7 centimeter wavelength. That sound can propagate with this 17 meter to 1.7 meter. What is this? This is nothing but this one of the parameter in case of time domain. Frequency, bandwidth, wavelength, time. So those are the story. So wavelength means sound can support for the properties, or sound can have the properties support for the property periodicity, maintain the periodicity and aperiodicity, periodic and non-periodic. So we are going to see that periodic and non-periodic also. Different composition for the sound are like speech and music. Why to have speech different than the music? Because this normally from the instrument, normally from the some other with the support of some extra entity. Speech is from the natural source. Over here some diatherming that seems to be incorporated. Diathering is nothing but the extra tones those are added in case of musical instrument. This diathering, this concept normally used in image processing, for image compression, same for sound compression, same for providing high pressure, providing low pressure, that effect you are supporting for a diathering. So that is the story. That is different composition for the sound, speech or music. Sound support periodicity and it also support for non-periodic. Periodic kind of sound, whistling, periodic sound. Birds normally singing bird. Musical instrument, violin, wind, those are somewhat periodic nature sound. Non-periodic nature sound, speech. Means at one instance somebody will be talking with a different pitch and on other section it will be talking with a different pitch. So speech. Sneezes, that speech normally sneezes. Rushing water is nothing but the kind of non-periodic sound or the kind of non-periodicity. Periodic sound, what do you mean by periodic? The cycle, those are repeated, or the nature of the cycle, nature of that high to low pressure, that will be repeating after a certain interval of time. Periodic. Non-periodic, not maintaining that particular section. That is the story. Periodic, normally single tone element, fixed tone element. Non-periodic, multiple tones seems to be possible. In this case, single fundamental frequency. There are multiple frequency. Non-periodic, normally composite signal kind of section. Composite signal, the signal which have fundamental frequency, some harmonic, some subharmonics there in the particular sound, in the particular speech, in the particular voice or noise. So non-periodic. So in case of composite kind of sound, the story is happening that to accommodate that you require some high bandwidth. To capture all those tones, some small magnitude, some high magnitude, some high frequency, some low frequency, some multiple frequency, cross modulation product. For accommodation that you require some different resources. You have to take care for all those. So extra resources seems to be expected. In that case, again, if you are taking into consideration such a kind of elements for your purpose, in that case, that energy, that spectral density, energy density for that composite kind of nature seems to be degraded very fast and seems to be falling off. So that is somewhat not possible. Non-periodic, that is the story of the non-periodic. So normally composite kind of sound is termed as that sound with a complex frequency, different frequency and shapes. That envelope seems to be changed, frequency tone seems to be changed, more tones, harmonics, nothing but that fundamental frequency multiplied by 2, fundamental frequency multiplied by 3, fundamental frequency multiplied by 5, harmonics with a changing magnitude. Suppose the fundamental frequency have the magnitude some 2 volt, the other one have the magnitude that 1.2, maybe 2.2, so 1.9, so varied, that will be varied. Normally it is going down, not going high, and there are somewhat subharmonics, 1.5, 2.5 times that original. There are some changing magnitude, and that is somewhat negative entity, negative component also possible due to reflection surface. So energy spectral density in that case seems to be falling off. So this is the story for today's session.